All right. The first thought you probably have looking at question 14 is this the reading section or the math section? They are very rarely going to give you stories that are this long. And half the time when they do give you stories that are this long, they're really just trying to intimidate you into giving up. So if you quit on this, at least make sure you pick an answer choice and move on. But I want to try to give you some pointers that you can kind of quit in an intelligent way, or you can actually prove the answer and get it right 100% of the time. So don't ever leave something like this blank. Remember, there's no guessing penalty. So answer the question. And the story is largely irrelevant. So there are some important pieces of information in here, but the whole story is mostly just filler. So we need to focus on the stuff that matters. And the thing that most people know right away is that it's not going to be choices C or D. Why is that? Well, when they tell us that each container of detergent weighs 7.35 pounds, that means that we really need to multiply 7.35 times D. So this is just weird. Like, where are these numbers coming from? People kind of just intuitively grasp a lot of times that that's strange. And so hopefully you at least get down to A and B. But that is where most people then can make the most common mistake on the SAT, which is they don't remember that they're taking an SAT, because the next piece of information we need to focus on here is that the service wants to buy at least twice as many containers of detergent as containers of fabric softener. That's an important piece of information. And that makes it sound like we need to just multiply the number of detergent containers by 2, twice as many, right? 2D. But it's not quite that simple. And we should know it's not going to be that simple because we are at question 14 in the no calculator section. So this is a question that is supposed to be hard. So if you're here and you end up getting an answer without really showing any work or thinking for more than 10 or 20 seconds, you should know that that answer is probably wrong. A lot of times you might get lucky, but you always want to try to prove those answers because you know how the SAT operates. They're trying to trick you on this stuff, on the hardest questions. So here's the deal. If you are totally confused by this story, your smart guess right now should be A, because you know that C and D are wrong for a reason that's pretty straightforward. And then between that, you should sense that B is maybe a little too easy, and you should maybe lean towards the trickier answer. And honestly, if that's all you can do, pick an answer choice. You've got a 50-50 shot and just keep moving. Get some easy points in those grid-ins where they get a little easier. But I want to show you how we can prove that A is the right answer here. Basically, we're going to arithmetize. And remember, the point of this strategy is to get rid of variables because our brains don't think in letters. They think in numbers. Numbers help us understand situations much better than variables, which are abstract. So we want to use numbers as much as possible. So luckily, we can plug numbers in for these letters, the D and the S, but we can also plug numbers into the story and really just kind of get a sense of what the sentences mean here. So it says they want to buy at least twice as many containers of detergent as containers of fabric softener. So if we think about it, if we had, let's say, 10 detergents, then we could have 5 softeners, right? That fits in with the story. The service wants to buy at least twice as many containers of detergent as containers of fabric softener. Now, because I have these greater than or equal to signs here, I might change this slightly just to make sure I'm not equal to what's going on. So it's not just double, it's a little more than double, 11 and 5. And now what I would do is I would test those numbers in my two inequalities and see if they work. So in choice A, it is true that 11 is greater than or equal to 2 times 5. That is true. And in choice B, it's also true that 2 times 11 is greater than or equal to 5, right? 22 is greater than 5. That is also true. So these numbers work for both choices. So how do we know what to do? Well, here's a nice little trick. If you get comfortable with arithmetize, you can really start to use this strategy to do amazing things. And when it comes to inequalities, one of the things that sometimes we want to do is pick numbers that we know won't work in the inequality. And that lets us see if an equation is a little too inclusive. So let me show you what I mean. If we still kept the same 5 fabric softeners, but we only bought 9 detergents, that should not work, right? That does not satisfy this sentence, right? 9 is not at least twice 5. So what we want to do, though, is we want to use these numbers that we know shouldn't work in the inequalities to test whether or not they include a number that they shouldn't. So if we look at choice A, we would see that 9 is greater than or equal to 2 times 5. So 9 is greater than or equal to 10. That's not true, which is what we wanted. We wanted it to not be true, right? We don't want these numbers to work. But watch what happens when we put these numbers into choice B. We would get 2 times 9 is greater than or equal to 5. Well, 18 is greater than or equal to 5. But it shouldn't be according to the story. So this is exactly why arithmetize can be really, really powerful when you get used to it, is you can use it to test answers that should work and answers that shouldn't. And with inequalities, sometimes that's the easiest way to make sure we know that we're right. Some inequalities, especially in the SAT, will include more values than they should. And this is our way of making sure the inequality is right. So choice A, as we expected, is the correct answer. You might have been able to get this using logic, but if I'm this deep into the no calculator section, question 14, I would not trust my logic to get me to the right answer. I would want to prove it as much as I can.